Hey YouTube, what's going on? Fistal Legend here. I've been away for a minute, been doing a whole lot of work, so I haven't had a chance to get to some videos. I definitely appreciate all the private messages I got checking up on me. Everything is cool. Just been super busy and I haven't had a chance to get to it. In any case, I got a little time right now, so I figured I would talk about the Kahr PM9 I picked up earlier this week. This is a really great little gun, and I guess I just want to talk about my initial experience with it. I know it is a popular gun. There's a lot of videos about it, so I just kind of want to add my 2 cents to the general consensus. Right off the bat, I will say that this gun definitely gets 2 thumbs up from me. It is a very small gun, so I kind of want to talk to how I operated it and how it felt to me. I do have large hands. I wear an extra large glove, so this is about as small as I could go. I checked out Ruger LCP and LCR. The LCR felt a little bit better in my hands. The LCP just felt too small, I have to say. And you know, by all means, there's people out there with bigger hands. This isn't about that. I'm just saying, for me personally, how it felt. The LCP just felt a little bit too small in my hands. This, and also, to be honest with you, I'm not sure how I feel about the 380 as a defensive round. Trust me, I know it would do the job. I just feel like I would prefer to have something with a little bit more power and a little bit more knockdown power. And a 9mm is kind of at the bottom of the spectrum for me, for my personal taste. As any of you know who've checked out my videos before, you know I'm a 45 guy. That's my round of choice. But there's something definitely appealing about such a small gun. Alright, so the Kahr PM9, obviously 9mm, hence the 9 in the PM9. There's PM40, PM45, there's all different types of configurations. There's a P380. This is the one, after checking them all out, this felt right. Alright. It did come with a 6-round magazine and then a 7-round with a little extension on the bottom. And I'm going to talk about that. The pros and cons of how this functioned for me today. I put exactly 200 rounds through it. That's the break-in period that they recommend in the manual. It specifically says this gun is not considered reliable until you've put 200 rounds through it. Shoot, I guess let's just talk about it a little bit. I'll take it off its little prop here to keep it angled up. First of all, this is an empty gun. Nothing in there but some dirt and residue. Alright, so here it is. Very slim profile. I'm going to talk about what that was like. I did have to make some adjustments because it is such a small gun and it does not feel, the grip does not fill my hand whatsoever. I can barely get 2 fingers on here. About the last part of my 4th finger, my ring finger, hangs off it, and then of course my pinky doesn't even make it, but it's very comfortable regardless of all that. You'll see it's got a nice, very kind of shallow curve here, so the finger fits nicely in there, very comfortable. I know I did a video on the Glocks that have a pretty aggressive curve in there, and that can be a little bit uncomfortable on my finger right there. Alright, so you'll see that's where my finger is. There you go. Alright, so definitely a small gun, and this is how I was shooting it today. Just put my pinky down like that and wrap around like so. Alright, the texturing on the sides I don't care for very much. It's not grippy at all, and in fact, if your hands sweat at all when you're shooting, it really doesn't feel very secure on the sides. But there's nice, much more aggressive texturing on the back strap, and the front strap is really nice. And even though I have about a little bit more than 1.5 fingers on it, it did feel very secure because of this aggressive texturing on the front strap. Alright. With the 6-round magazine, the floor plate does stick out a little bit, so you can put a Pierce extension on there. I'm gonna probably just not put anything on there. I actually, it felt pretty good when I was shooting it like this once I got used to it. Alright. Now, a couple of the issues that I did have was because it's such a small gun. Let me back the camera up a little bit. Alright. Yeah, some of the issues that I had was when I first, and I brought some targets to take a look at. When I first, my first rounds that I started firing from this gun, because it's so small, I realized that I was putting too much pressure. I was gripping the entire, the grip of the pistol with way too much force, because I felt like I really had to grip it and squeeze it to hold on to it when I was shooting, because again, you know, a little over 1.5 fingers holding on to it, I felt like I really needed to grip it, and because of that I was kind of overcompensating muscularly. And you'll see right in here where that's where most of the contact on the grip is, right here, because I was gripping it so tight. You see, if I squeeze the gun like that, you see the gun is ever so slightly moving over this way. Alright, and so what that was making me do is pull all my shots, obviously, to the left. And then I was also having a tendency in my first couple shots to have my finger, because it's such a small gun, my finger too far in, so that the trigger now was no longer right in the center of my pad where I like it, but a little bit too far over here. So again, when it was like that, I mean, just the way I'm holding the gun, you can see it's already canted off to the left. So I had to be really aware of where my finger was on the trigger, again, because it's such a small gun. And I had to be really aware of what type of pressure I was putting on the gun with my grip to keep it secure in my grasp. And I was having to be really cognizant of making sure that I'm just applying pressure on the front, straight back into the back strap, from the back strap into my palm, so that when I do pull the trigger, we're not getting this. Alright, the gun is staying still. The pressure is keeping the gun firmly against the palm of my hand right in here. And once I did that, and made sure I focused on my follow through afterwards, I was bringing everything much more into the center of the target. This is a double action only gun, and I've heard great things about the trigger, so I was really expecting a good experience with it, and that's exactly what I had. This trigger is really amazing for a double action only. It's very smooth. It is a long pull. Again, let me just in case someone missed it, this is an empty gun. Alright, completely empty. Alright, there. Alright, so let's look at the pull. You'll see where it breaks. Alright. Again, very smooth, very consistent. It's really a nice trigger. It was really fun to shoot. And picking up my cadence, I didn't do any super rapid fire shots, but I did some pretty, you know, I did some towards the end at a pretty good cadence. And the trigger is really nice. It's really nice. So yes, if you did have a self-defense situation where you had to use this firearm, you do have to make a very deliberate pull. This gun isn't just going to go off if you just tap the trigger. It is a very long, deliberate pull, but it's a very smooth, clean braking pull. So it's really nice. All right, let me pull up some of my targets and talk about a couple of issues that I had. Okay, so besides the fact that I was being too muscular with it right in through here and making the gun kick off to the left, another issue I had was with the 7-round magazine, and I'm sure that the spring needs to be broken, and I'm sure the spring is too tight. But what was happening, I got some snap caps here, so just bear with me for a quick second. I was having some real serious failure to feeds with this magazine. With the 6-round magazine, not an issue at all. This thing shot flawless. Every single round I put in here was flawless, no issues. This one, however, let me see if I can demonstrate what was going on. Alright, so there, it's seated on the follower just fine, right? Let's see if I can watch. Now that I have it on camera, it's going to work just fine. Let me see if I can demonstrate what was going on. Okay, there we go. Now you see how the round that I just fed in is angled the way it's supposed to feed smoothly up onto the feed ramp and into the chamber, right? These, you see, started to point down. So I was getting this weird separation where if you see the plane of my fingers along with the round, you'll see I was getting this. Alright, let me see. There. And there. So what was happening, let me feed a couple more in here. I'm trying not to make this video too long. Alright. I'm actually going to try to run these through just by manually pulling back the slide. There we go. You see that? See how the snap cap is angling kind of down and not with the angle of the feed ramp? And I think that's because the spring just needs to be broken in, so it's putting too much, it's a little too strong pushing up on the rear of the follower instead of evenly. But let me kind of show you what happened. And it happened a lot with this magazine. Alright, there. Now that one's pointing up the way it should, so that's going to feed fine. But when the next round in line was coming up to load in up on the feed ramp and into the chamber, it was staying pointed down just like that, and it wouldn't feed. So I'm just going to manually do this. These are snap caps. Alright, so we look down in there, and you see it's in the perfect angle it needs to be to feed. So let's say the round is fired and now the casing is ejected. That one's angled right. That one's angled right. Okay, so now they're all feeding the way they're supposed to. So again, I think it's just a matter of the magazine. Yeah, so all of those fed just fine. But what I had happen, probably I've shot 200 rounds, and every other time I shot was with this one. So I would say if I fired this, if I used this, 7, 8 times, 6 of the times I had a serious failure to feed, where a really aggressive tap and rack wouldn't change the angle and get the bullet to feed, so I had to actually eject the magazine, mess around with it, and then pop it back in. That probably happened 6 times with this magazine. So that was a little bit of a drag, but it's already starting to work smoother, so I'm sure it's just a matter of letting the spring break in. So what I'm going to do when I'm done with this video is just load this magazine up and just let it sit for a couple days and then take it back to the range again. Alright, the 6-round magazine, like I said before, flawless. I mean, this thing, it fed everything perfectly. It had no issues when the small magazine was in the firearm. Alright, so real quick, pull up some targets. Alright, so let's see. Here is my first target. And you will see, I'm going to roll it up and just start from the top because I don't have a lot of room. You'll see all my rounds for this one pulled significantly to the left. Okay? So with each target, I kind of chose to group in the head, group in the chest, and then group in the gut. So you'll see kind of 3 groupings on every target. This was at 10 yards, and initially I thought I was milking the trigger, which is the note I put on the target after I fired, because you'll see it's quite obviously I'm pulling to the left and a couple flyers here. Alright, and obviously in a self-defense situation, things like this are not acceptable, because something or someone not intended to could get seriously injured or killed in a situation like that. So these are the first rounds I started putting through the gun. And again, I thought it was because I was milking the trigger. The trigger was too far into this area of my finger, but then I realized what I was doing. Because the gun's so small, I was being too muscular with it, and as soon as I grip like that and all that meat comes out on the hand and I'm putting grip on it, I was tweaking the gun to the left. Alright, so then you'll see 1 magazine, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of chest shots. Alright, again, a little off to the left, and then off to the left on my center of mass kind of gut shots. Okay, didn't hit the cue at all. Pulled everything to the left. Alright. So after taking a look at how I was holding it and making some adjustments, I made some adjustments. Again, I did have a flyer there. And a couple flyers down there. Oh, I'm sorry, this was my last target because this was the one at 15 yards. Alright, so I jumped the gun. Hold on. This is the one I was looking at. This is my second target. Yeah, okay, because this was still at 10 yards. My first two targets were at 10 yards. So again, head, heart, gut. Those are my intended targets. And still a little bit off to the left, but a little bit better. You know, grouping nicely, still pulling a little to the left, so I still need to work on how I'm gripping the gun because it is so small and not filling up my hand. I need to focus on just, you know, holding it firmly but pushing directly back into my palm. So there's the headshots. Again, not perfectly in the center by any means, but solid grouping and no flyers. Right. And then the heart shots or whatever, upper chest shots, a little bit better in terms of in the center of my, you know, the heart is on the left side of the body, right? So left to center, so fairly solid grouping. Paying attention to how I was pulling the trigger and how I was holding the gun in my grasp definitely aided with that. And then the gut shots, much better, much more in the center. There's the cue. So shot the cue out and kept it much more centered on my target. Alright. So that was at 10 yards. And then the target that I pulled up prematurely, I took it back to 15 yards, kind of sped up my cadence just to see how the gun with that double action only trigger, how it felt. Okay, again, it was not rapid fire, but you know, my cadence was like pop, 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 about like that with each magazine. So obviously, shooting faster, my grouping opened way up. Alright, a couple of flyers. So I definitely have to work on that. And then my last, these are probably the fastest that I shot today and opened up pretty wide. Alright, so that's it, YouTube. Just wanted to talk about my PM9. It's a great little gun. I highly recommend it. Even if you do have big hands like myself, the gun is very comfortable to shoot. Really nice trigger. And this is the generation with the metal mag release. There were some issues with the plastic mag release. Some people were accidentally dropping their magazine when using it, so they made some changes. And now you can tell it's the newer model by the fact that it has the metal mag release here. Alright, so that's it. Kahr PM9. It's a great little gun. I plan to do some more in-depth reviews on it, but there's a lot of great reviews out there. I just wanted to add to it. That's it. Kahr PM9. That's it, YouTube. Fist of Legend here. As always, God bless and be safe. Alright.